You've often heard the phrase that history doesn't oftentimes repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And that is very much the case when it comes to the price action of commodities such as gold, silver, in comparison to the likes of Bitcoin. And more specifically, when we look at Bitcoin in 2020 and 2021. We're going to talk about how the price action that we've seen in commodities like gold, like silver, like platinum, like palladium, why these have rallied so much. And could this be a sign that Bitcoin has a huge rally in 2026? Will history rhyme for Bitcoin? We're going to talk about that, look at some of the data in today's video. If you're new here, my name is Alex. We'll talk about crypto news, crypto passive income. If you enjoy content like that, consider subscribing. If you enjoyed this video, smash up the like. Without further ado, let's end the video. So as we consider the cycle that we're in right now for Bitcoin, I mean, everyone is pretty much on the same page that Bitcoin has very much underperformed what most people expected in the course of 2025. Most people truly believed that Bitcoin was going to have its craziest year in 2025, which I think to a certain degree still kind of happened. It just 2024 was also a really, really good year for the likes of Bitcoin. I mean, if you think about it, when 2024 started, Bitcoin was at like 50,000, right? Or slightly less at 47,000. And it went in 2024 at its all-time high to 97,000. So it doubled in the course of 2024. So it was an incredible year last year. And a lot of people expected kind of a bigger jump in 2025, which really did not happen. In fact, we're closing 2025 at this pace lower than we started off 2025. So it kind of begs the question, is this actually the turn of a bear market? Were we a bit shorted on this massive bull market that everyone expected, a $250,000 Bitcoin? Or is there just a different time frame that we have to be paying attention to? And a lot of this is predominantly set on the fact that Bitcoin has been lagging the likes of commodities and precious metals. So obviously, when you look at technical analysis, you look at overall finances, people are going to use different data sets to kind of fit their theory of thinking, right? Fit their reason behind why they are still DCing right now into Bitcoin right now, why they believe a new all-time high is going to be coming next year. People are going to have all these reasonings, but typically that reasoning comes from a foundational data set or information, historical proof that this makes sense. So let's talk about how it makes sense that Bitcoin will have a new all-time high in 2026. Now, that being said, this is not me saying this. This is simply the data set that people are, if you're seeing this on social media or seeing this on X, why people are saying Bitcoin is going to go to a new all-time high because it's following a rally of commodities. This is what they're talking about. So hopefully you can kind of come to your own conclusion whether you believe this is actually happening or not, but at least you have the information to actually come to a reasonable conclusion. So here's kind of some of the historical price action that we've seen in the likes of gold compared to the likes of Bitcoin, right? This is all the way back to 2016 when we saw this massive bull market for the likes of Bitcoin. And also gold has performed very, very well in times like this as well. So you're going to see the gold on the bottom, Bitcoin on the top. So typically what this specific chart is showing is gold runs and rallies first, followed by the likes of Bitcoin. Now, mind you, this is also not taking into account everything else that happens in the world in 2016 and what happens in the world in 2020, right? This is taking into account none of the other information. This is simply looking at technical analysis and historical patterns. That is it. Those are the two data sets that are being used to measure this possibility of Bitcoin going to new all-time highs next year. Now, This is what you're going to see a lot on crypto Twitter. People talking about this, right? You're going to see people like Gorilla saying here, hey, Grok, what happened to Bitcoin and the rest of crypto market once gold and silver topped in 2020? And Grok responds saying, after gold and silver peaked in August of 2020, Bitcoin surged from around 11,700 to 29,000 in December, and then continuing a rally to the likes of 64,000 in April and 69,000 in November of 2021. So if we're using this this theory and this logic, what we would see from a chart perspective is we would see a rally. Not obviously this is not going to be on the August, not the same month time frame, but you're going, according to this logic, is Bitcoin is going to rally post the end of the rally for precious metals. So once gold and silver stop rallying, once they cool off, people take their profits, things settle down, Bitcoin will start to rally. And that rally will continue until 2027, when we will see a massive peak. And that is going to be when we see the peak for Bitcoin. But the problem is that totally disregards the 4-year cycle theory. So you're kind of going against the grain to a certain degree if you're in the belief that Bitcoin is going to rally because it is historically rallied post the likes of commodities rallying and topping off. So let's take a look at the actual data. Let's take a look at how this actually performs historically. So this is the likes of gold. We're going to look at just gold and silver. We're not going to take a look at palladium and platinum. But this is a perfect example. Now, this is March of 2020. We see gold all the way here at 1800. Obviously, we have the whole COVID situation that drops gold to like around 1450. And then we see this massive, massive rally that ends in August. Now, ironically, we have the same thing here for the likes of silver, right? This is in March, right? And we're going to have this drop, everything dropped here. And then we see this rally that ends here end of August. So the thing is, what people will say is, here's Bitcoin, right? These are all daily charts. Bitcoin also dropping right here. We saw this drop here to what was like 3,800 on some exchanges. And then we see kind of a recovery, but everything kind of stays stagnant. Nothing really goes insane. We kind of use this 10K level of resistance. Then we break above it. We go to the likes of, I think, 12K here, but nothing really. And then all of a sudden, Bitcoin just starts ripping. Now, mind you, when we look at the time frames, this is end of August here. So then things correct, right? Because what starts to happen is silver starts to correct. We're going to just remove this, right? End of August, these are different assets. Silver is correcting. Gold is correcting. So you can see this here. This is August. Zoom out. Peaks early August, correcting. And so you're going to see over that same time frame, Bitcoin does the exact opposite. And in fact, that is when Bitcoin has its massive rally all the way into April of the following year. So that is where the whole theory that Bitcoin is going to follow gold. Once gold tops out, once silver tops out, we will see a Bitcoin rally to new all-time highs, farther than 125,000, farther than 150,000, all the way to potentially $200,000 to $250,000 Bitcoin. That is at least the theory, and that is the extreme hypersensitive bullish theory that everyone is clinging to, because to a certain degree, this is the only reason why there's not a lot of other things that you can kind of compare Bitcoin or data that you can use for Bitcoin to create a bullish thesis for Bitcoin in 2026. There's not a lot, but there is this, and that is what everyone is clinging to. Now, here's the thing. You're going to see some people that are going to skew this a little bit. This is completely inaccurate because it's never happened, where this individual on a Bitcoin forum talked about Bitcoin topping out in October of this year. That actually did occur. What didn't occur is this post here saying that Bitcoin is going to go to 250K. So just be mindful of some of the information that you're going to see out there. But this is what you're going to see if you're looking at the historical pattern for gold moving first and Bitcoin following suit. This is directly, this is the AI that you get with Google, but gold moves first during periods of involving global liquidity or economic uncertainty. Capital often flows into gold, driving its price to new all-time highs. Bitcoin follows later. Bitcoin's price typically consolidates or moves sideways initially when gold's momentum slows or tops out. Capital rotates, and Bitcoin experiences an aggressive, often parabolic acceleration that leads to its own new all-time high. So this is the idea, right? This is the theory that the current divergence has reinforced that Bitcoin follows gold theory. This is just a theory, right? Among many traders who are watching for signs for gold's momentum to weaken as a potential trigger for a massive Bitcoin breakout in early 2026, expecting as high as 240,000. That is the theory, right? Now, whether or not you make your trades and place your long positions based off this theory is completely up to you, because only time will tell whether this theory is actually accurate. And mind you, there's not I mean, yes, we've had two prior cycles, this right here specifically going to 2016, showcasing that this happens, but the rest of the world is very, very different compared to where we were in 2020 and how we were compared to 2016. A lot of macro factors have changed substantially, so something to consider. There are a few things that people have talked about as far as the fact that Bitcoin to gold is extremely weak for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin to gold has dropped to around 20 ounces of gold, its lowest since early of 2024, which is when we started to see that rally for the likes of Bitcoin in 2024. The weekly RSI is at 29.5, which is really low, close to 3-year lows, which historically marks long-term bottoms for Bitcoin versus gold. So that is where you're going to see kind of that cross, that switch over from gold into Bitcoin, that transition. That is the theory here. We see a potential bullish divergence indicating a short-term rebound with gold appearing overvalued and Bitcoin undervalued. And you have another post talking about this as well. So the last thing I want to highlight is right now, Bitcoin hasn't matched gold's performance, but it doesn't have to. The world's oldest store of value oftentimes leads the way in times of uncertainty. Bitcoin, as a newer but increasing recognized digital store of value, could logically follow to be when investors begin to broaden their safe haven strategies. Some expect this to normalize, and Bitcoin can rise much more sharply than critics expect, suggesting as high as 240,000. So that is the theory, right? Whether or not this theory is accurate, whether or not this chart is going to, is this chart predicting the future? Is the funds, gold, going to be topping out here? Are the funds going to move into the likes of Bitcoin to have a further rally moving forward? That is kind of the question. Is Bitcoin, we've seen this massive gold rally, is Bitcoin positioning itself to do this right here that we saw in 2020, 2021, that we saw in 2016 to 2017? Are we getting ready to experience that same thing all over again? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this theory. Is it legitimate? Is it one that you are going to put your money where your mouth is, essentially, with this type of theory? Let me know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed this video, smash up the like. Enjoy content like this, consider subscribing. Until next time, guys, stay invested.